Good morning. Oh, Shabbat Shalom. It's been a while since I've done a video. I've had a very, very busy few weeks. Um, as you might know or might not know, we had a fire about, let's see, 4, 3 is 7, about 9 weeks ago, we had a fire in the house. And so there's been all of that type of work that has been necessary to start to attend to. No, it's not finished. What is outstanding is I still need to get the kitchen. Our houses are concrete here, by the way. I still need to get the kitchen, uh, the skim coat put on there because the fire actually caused a lot of the layers of the old paint to fall away from the concrete. And it's pretty rough right now. Big patches of paint have fallen away. I still need to work on that, and then put the shelving up. And then we'll be back pretty much to normal. And then 2 weeks, I think, maybe not that long, after the fire, the Wild Grains Learning Tour group came to Israel. And I was with them 3 weeks, and it was a wonderful time. Bless their hearts. They were able to see past the chaos in the house, and honestly, the black from the soot. And we had a wonderful time. We traveled Israel. We learned about the grains. We were in the city of David with Eli Shukron, Temple Zero. If you've not been made aware of Temple Zero, you really need to do your diligence and find out about this location. It it's the heritage of us all. I'll just say it that way. And I do have a full-length video of Ellie talking when we were down in the temple with a group. I may publish that, and I may attach it to a teaching that I've already taught, but this new evidence that is being released to the public, and more people are becoming aware of. It just is archaeological evidence of what the Bible is saying, and I've been teaching. So we did that. That was 3 weeks, and then the ladies went home, and I had a pause of about 7 days. And my oldest daughter and son-in-law came for 3 weeks. Her second visit, his first visit. So of course we had to go do everything. We were all over Israel except for the north. We did not make it to the area of Hermon. So it was a lovely time, and I actually took them to the airport 7 days ago. I took them last Sunday, and that's why you haven't seen or heard from me. I haven't had time to do anything but sleep, and at times not even enough sleep. But I wanted to tell you about something that happens, an arrangement by the Holy Spirit that happened while my daughter and son-in-law were here. Excuse me. Iced coffee. It is overcast. It is beautiful. It is almost June, and we're expecting the possibility of flash flooding in the Negev, in the southern regions. So Elohim has his ways, and I'm just glad I'm here to see everything he's doing. But back to this event that we had when my daughter and son-in-law were here with me. We had actually been down in Eilat, down in the Red Sea, floating and looking at the coral reefs down there, and looking at the big and little fish. Sometimes they were scary big, and sometimes they were cute and little. But we had been down there, spent the night, and we're getting ready to head back home. Our plan was to come back up through the Ramon crater at Mispe Ramon, and let them see that area, which is just absolutely gorgeous. And on the way, I said, I had been wanting to go by the Arava Institute. Dr. Elaine Soloe is the lady in the Institute that was successful in taking the dates from archaeological digs, various digs around Israel, some of them dating, well, one of them from Jericho, the Tell of Jericho. Some of them are thousands of years old, one from Masada, but they would all be what is considered the Judean date, which has been lost to us. The dates we have, the palm trees have been super bred to be quite different than what grew uh, in Yeshua's day and earlier. So Dr. Elaine Soloe had has seven trees. Yeah, she has 5 male and 2 female. And Hannah, the female trees, one of them is producing dates. The other one, I don't know if it's just not, we didn't talk about her, or if it will, but Hannah has this year is carrying boughs of dates from, I think, all of the males. Each male was pollinated with her. But I believe this is the 3rd or the 4th year that Hannah has been producing dates. Well, guess what? These ancient Judean dates produce first fruits in perfect sync and harmony with the biblical calendar based in the 7 first fruits offering, the one that I tell you about. Um, I believe that this is the true timing of Elohim. We can use a lot of cofactors in our reckoning. But if you don't have the succinct timing of his 7 first fruits offerings as they were required to be presented in the temple, you don't have the right calendar. And this timing is, boy, you talk about precise and succinct. It is just that. If the barley is not determined correctly, then the wheat will not be ready as a first fruits offering for Shavuot. And maybe, I have a video coming up on that. There's a group of Israelis that are very deep into studying some of the aspects of this. And I was actually read an article that talks a lot about the book of Ruth and about how in that area it was possible for Ruth to participate in the barley and the wheat harvest in Boaz's area, how Boaz could have had wheat in that area because it's not a strong area for wheat. There are just absolutely regions where the wheat won't grow. Anyway, that's a rabbit trail, but it's such a succinct timing that if I don't get the barley correct, the wheat won't be ready. But if I get the barley correct and the wheat is ready, then the rest will fall in its perfect timing. You may have seen the photos that I posted on Saturday for the grapes that are just big and beautiful in the area of Samaria. And they're just, we're just right there knocking at the door. In fact, that day we had 107 degrees. Some of those figs on my tree over here in my little microclimate. I'm so sorry. Some of the scientific idealism that people held to themselves is just beyond ridiculous. Of course, Elohim creates microclimates. How do you think we get a first fruits that stand out from the rest? Anyway, so some of the dates on my tree are turning purple, have turned purple. Now, I don't use it, but my Turkish dates, I've already had 2 figs off that tree. The common, I'm sorry, not date, figs. My Turkish fig tree, I've already had 2 figs off of that tree. And my common figs are starting to turn purple. So I see that our timing is right on time, because the next thing we need we need grapes for the 5th month and figs. And then we wait for the 7th month, and then we need pomegranates. Look how big those are already. Look how big some of them are. Let's see if I can show you another. And look how they hang down with the weight of the fruit. Isn't that beautiful? So next we need the pomegranates. And you can see after the 5th and 6th months, we need the pomegranates. And you can see those first blooms are really, really, really coming along. It's just not in my little quote-unquote microcosm, but this is happening all over the community. And these beautiful pomegranates are just garnishing the tree like crazy. And look, for those who think harvest needs to be in its entirety, do you let these rot so that you can collect this one, which is going to come much later? It doesn't make any sense to me. Do you let that one rot just so you can get the last one that's ready? Did you know in the Talmud that it talks about tying, was this one that came first. It talks about tying a ribbon to this branch, to this fruit, to make sure it's included in our first fruits offering. That you tie these as they get big and they begin to ripen. So you make sure that you know your first fruits offering. So anyway, having the whole tree to come ripe before you can harvest is just armchair jockeying. Nobody who's a farmer would require that of their tree. It's impossible. That's not the way that Elohim created it. So pomegranates, and then we will go to dates, which the dates, again, I'm using Dr. Elaine Soloi, sorry, her plants that she's brought back from ancient times as proof. I'll go down there now that I've met her as we approach the 7th month and see if she will again let me be there as they harvest those dates, so that you can see the timing, how it is perfectly in line with Elohim's calendar. And then finally will be the olives. And I was going to see if I can show you. Yes, I can. That's where our olives are, right there. They're already pretty doggone big, huh? So this timing is very succinct. But my purpose of the video today is to share with you the interview that Dr. Soloi allowed me to take. As we had left Eilat, we went by there. Bless their hearts, I forgot to feed them breakfast. I was excited about going to see the trees. I had no inclination that I would actually bump into the doctor. So I hadn't fed them breakfast, but it was okay. We ended up having breakfast in the dining hall on the kibbutz, probably much cheaper than if we would have tried to eat in Eilat. Because we were there when we were, it actually was perfect timing. I'm going to put this back in the stand. It actually was perfect timing. We got there when we pulled up. You want to hear the birds chatting in the background. The doves have stopped, so that'll be less noise. The wild doves have been singing all morning long. But we actually got there, and the doctor was standing just outside the institute, and we had drove into an area that it wasn't really posted, but it was just an area they preferred us not to park. And so I could see her looking, who are we, what do we want, because we're there by the trees. And I just asked her, I said, is it okay if we park here? And she says, no, it's better if you park over there. I said, okay, no problem, we'll move the car. We moved the car and she was waiting for us. And I said, you know, hi, uh, I've read so much about the work here and I just came to see the trees. And she said, well, you know, we had a storm come through and blew the signs down and we haven't replaced them. So I can tell you about them. And she began to talk and I said, may I record this? And she said, yeah, sure. So that's the story of meeting Dr. Elaine Saloe. Now, the interesting thing about that is for the last 3 years, I really wanted to reach out to her and talk to her about the trees, go and talk to her about the trees in person. But I have let my flesh, my flesh keep me from doing that. Um, I just felt like, you know, who am I that this busy person would take the time to speak with somebody about the work she's doing. I mean, she runs an institute where Jewish and Arab students come and learn about the ancient Judean dates, where they're attempting to grow more of these trees. And, you know, so this is really important work as far as I'm concerned with the biblical calendar, that we have these ancient species that are being, as it were, revived. Um, there is a gentleman, which I hope to interview. I'm going to gird my flesh up and approach this scientist that has identified the DNA of the pits of grapes, the seeds of grapes that have also been extracted from the tells around Israel. And he DNA sequenced them, and then they went into the wild and were able to identify wild, quote unquote, varieties of grapes that match the DNA sequencing. And it's a very interesting story because Arabs do not drink wine. Most of what he found was on Arab property. And now we have literally grape varieties growing from the time of King David. Uh, so that's exciting. It's an exciting time we live in. You know, it's got me very excited to explore. Is anybody doing the pomegranates? Is anybody looking for an ancient olive tree? You know, our olive trees are everywhere. We have Sumerian olives growing here. We have all the olives from all the surrounding countries growing here. And so does anybody know the ancient olive tree? Are we interested from the olive pits, what the DNA sequencing are? These are all things I'm just excited to begin to explore now in the coming months, years, whatever Elohim leads into. But so, yeah, I think this is a very, very, very important work. And I think that Elohim is absolutely restoring the understanding of the timing of his calendar. Has very little to do with me. Has nothing to do with me. He plunked me down in the middle of it and caused me to love it. And, you know, I'm just obedient to what he's done. Um, what he's done. I'll leave it that way. So, this next portion will be the interview that I grabbed with Dr. Elaine Saloe. The sound is bad. I have a new apparatus here that it was the first time I had used it, and I was actually recording with two mics, the one on my lapel now and the internal mic on the cell phone. But it's not that bad. The recording audio is not that bad. So we will splice these two videos together and let you see them. Oh, another little information that while I was reading in the paper yesterday, my husband actually sent it to me, is they have isolated yeast from one of the clay pots that was used to create beer in the area of Gaza, in the ancient Philistine area in Israel. They claim to be Philistines, but really they're Edomites. Anyway, that's another story. Um, and in the excavations, they recovered these earthen vessels, and they were able to extract some of the yeast from this vessel. And they've got a few, just like like the grapes and the dates. They've got a few varieties of yeast from different regions and different uh, time frames in history. But this one from the Palestinian beer vessel was the easiest for them to reproduce, and I've actually ordered a package of it. Uh, I would love next year. It's a pre-order. It's not up. It's not ready for delivery yet. I would love next year to take some of the wild barley or wild wheat or one of each and produce some beer the way that they did in the ancient times. Beer was seen, and still is scientifically, if you do the research, as very thirst quenching and hydrating. And it was a common drink for everyone, including children. So, exciting times. There's an exhibit in the uh, University of Israel, or in the Israel Museum, I'm sorry, that I'm getting ready to attend, that talks about the ancient foods and the uses of, and I just find it also very fascinating. Every little bit of information adds a layer to not only the Bible, but the calendar. Okay, I have talked enough, and next you're going to see the interview with Dr. Soloe.
Imagined.
Have you seen him? He's beautiful. Isn't he lovely? She sprouted quite vigorously in 2014, and now she has bunches from she's our only fertile female so far.
Really?
It's much harder to be a female date tree than it is to be a male date tree.
Huh.
So she's our only fertile female. She has two bunches from each of our fertile males.
Really?
Yeah. We have several fertile males. We have Methuselah, the granddaddy of them all, that he sprouted in 2005, and he was found at Masada.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, I don't know. I've read bits and pieces, and I thought they were all found in Masada, but they were not.
No.
Oh, that's
Two of them were
interesting.
found in Masada, and then when we went back to Bar Ilan and asked them for more seeds, they had 40,000 date seeds. What's the problem?
Right?
They wouldn't give us any.
Oh,
So we went to an archaeologist by the name of Yosef Patrice, who was working around the Dead Sea area around Masada, and he said, "Sure, you want some seeds? Oh, I've got hundreds of them. Come pick what you want." Now, I did not choose the seeds.
okay.
Dr. Salone, who's actually visiting, uh, chose them. She seems to have an ability to figure out who's alive.
Huh.
I don't understand it myself. She brought me 40 seeds, and I was able to sprout 5 more trees out of them.
Wow.
So now we have 7 ancient date trees.
That's amazing. And these are considered like the Judean from
Yeah.
the time when they would observe the calendars, and all that type of thing. That's awesome.
Yeah, the only problem with this project is it took me 17 years to get a piece of fruit out of it. And nobody gives you that kind of grant. I'll tell you.
Yeah.
So I'm in trouble. That one is called Adam.
So that's a male. They have male and female names accordingly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I thought so.
And only the females bear fruit.
Right.
Yeah, the males, of course, have clouds of pollen. When
Now,
the male flower bursts, there's a little cloud of pollen out by it.
That's awesome. So you only have one female. Are you trying for another female?
Yeah.
Okay.
We are. It's not so easy right now because, well, we've already done it, and nobody wants to back us.
Yeah, that nobody wants. Yeah, you've done it, so why get another one? I think why get another one is because, it's restoring the land.
Well, these are a little different than the ordinary dates. One thing, they have a lot of Cretan DNA in them. 5,000 years ago, our date trees in the area, I would say, hybridized with the Cretan date,
Oh,
which
okay.
is a little short fellow about that big.
Okay.
They have 6% Cretan DNA in them, which is kind of worn out in the modern days, and the modern dates is down to 1.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. That's interesting.
And of course, the radiocarbon dates were all pretty accurate.
Mm-hmm.
They were accurate within 30 years,
Mm-hmm.
and you cannot test them until you sprout them. You can't clip pieces off.
Sure.
One of the things that the Barilan people did was they sent me some dates with the tops cut off. So I said, what am I supposed to do with these?
Mm-hmm.
They're not going to sprout like that.
Mm-hmm. So how do you see the Cretan DNA affecting what was?
I think maybe it makes them more resistant to disease.
Okay. Okay. Well, that's a good thing then.
Yeah, that's a good thing. We're still studying it. We're trying to find out why. Her dates are quite medicinal, actually.
Really?
Yeah, we're trying to figure out why. What's the difference between her dates and the Judean Dates?
Everybody's favorite. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
This is a semi-dry date.
It is.
Yeah.
Are they selling any of her fruit here?
Oh, yeah, they're selling 3 for an incredible amount of money, 150 shekels.
Whoa.
149 shekels in the B&B.
So what are the different medicinal values that she has that stand out to you?
Well, I don't really study this. I'm basically a plant person.
Right.
Dr. Salone is studying it. She's found out that they are incredibly good for problems with the intestines, and we're not entirely sure
Really
why.
Huh.
Like, for instance, they're very good for Crohn's disease.
Uh-huh.
They're very good as far as their laxative properties.
Oh, wow.
And they're not entirely sure why. So they're studying it.
That's very interesting. So there's a significant difference in the medicinal values of what we have.
Yeah, they also look a little different, frankly.
Do they?
They have a relatively short luau of inner bud.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm looking at the clusters that are hanging here, and the first thing that struck me is when I was reading Song of Solomon, it talks about how the clusters hang like grapes.
Yes.
And this looks more like a grape cluster than what you see in the orchards near me.
That's probably true.
That was the very first thing that struck me is, oh, those look like grape clusters.
Yeah.
That's just so interesting, so exciting, actually.
Yeah, are there any questions?
No, do you guys have any questions? Yeah, thank you so much for your time. So I assume from that, then you're the one who planted these.
Yeah.
That's so awesome. Nice to meet you. What a privilege.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for your time.